Alright guys, back on the 2000 ZR2 S10 Blazer. Didn't see any videos out there on how to torque these, how to torque your intake manifold down. What you want to do, guys, is do this in three separate torque settings when you put these intakes back on there. And guys, what I did, you're supposed to let that your silicone sealant here that you put across the front and the rear of the engine block. And what I did is I put these two front bolts in and those two, and I just drawed them down very little. And then also, guys, you want to use blue Loctite. If you're going to reuse your, they recommend to put new bolts in there when you do this. Those bolts are pretty expensive. You're looking about $50 for the set of 8 bolts. So if you want to reuse your old ones, take a little wire wheel on a drill, or if you got a bench grinder with a wire wheel, what I did is I just took this here and put it on my drill, and then I clean those intake bolts, clean those up real good with the wire brush, and then use your blue Loctite on your threads there, guys, when you put these bolts in, so they don't work loose on you and then you'll have a leak. But in order to torque those, guys, you start right here on your number 1, which is this one right here. See, you got your first one here. This is the first one you want to torque down, and this is the first one. And then your second one, guys, is back here, right here. It's not the very end one, but the next one to the end. That's number 2. That's your second one you want to torque. And then this one over here is your third one, which is next to the back. It's not the very back one. And then over here to number 4. And then to your very back one, number 5. Your very back one, number 6. And the very front one here on your passenger side, number 7. And then this one here, like I said on that other video, loosen that bracket up, take you a screwdriver or a small pry bar, get in there so you can get your socket on there to torque that down, and that's your number 8 right there behind this bracket. Now your first you just keep doing that, rotating that about 3 or 4 times, guys. The first time you just want to barely draw it down, and then put your screws in there and just to where they start touching the intake. And then your second time around, you want to do 27 inch pounds if you're using inch pounds. If you're using foot pounds, it's 2 1/4 foot pounds. Once you go through that rotation like I just showed you, you go through the rotation again at 106 inch pounds, which is equivalent to 9 foot pounds. And then on your final rotation on torquing your bolts down, guys, is 132 inch pounds, which is equivalent to 11 foot pounds. So that's the way you want to do that, guys, on these 4.3 on the 4.3 liter GM motors. And like I said in that other video, if you watch that other video I put out there on this bracket problem here, You can check that other video out if you got an issue with your trying to figure out how to get to that bolt that's back behind this air conditioning bracket. You can check that other video out. I got another video out on that. And you got to let that, like I said, I just barely put any pressure on them. Those 4 bolts on the outside edges there when I put my sealant on there, because it says to let that sealant set up for an hour. And then once that sets up for an hour, then you go ahead and put your other bolts in, and make sure you use the blue Loctite on your bolts there, guys, because you don't want them working loose on you going down the road and then have a leak. And then you go through and do that torque like I just showed you 3 separate times or 4 times or whatever. I mean, the first time, like I said, I just drawed them down just to where they start touching the intake. And then on the second time, I went through and did the second, third, and then the final step, which was 11 foot-pounds. And then, guys, you want to let that set. You want to let that sealant here that you put on there, you want to let that set for at least 24 hours, guys. And that's in, you know, anywhere from, let's say, 50 to 80 degree weather. If you're in a colder temperature and you're doing that, you might want to let that set up even longer. You know, if it's only 30 or 40 degrees out, you might want to let that set up for maybe 36 hours. But anyways, give that sealant time to set up there, guys, after you torque that down, before you put your antifreeze in there, and you know, before you start the vehicle up. Just go ahead and let that set for 24 hours or 36 hours or whatever temperature is wherever you're working on your vehicle, and let that set over good. That way, guys, you won't have a leak, and because you don't want to have to do that job again, and there's quite a bit of work to doing that, and you definitely don't want to go back through and tear that all out and then have to put new gaskets in again and reseal everything and scrape everything off. So make sure you give that plenty of time to set up there, guys. And once you get that, you let that set up real good, you shouldn't have any leaks. And when you do that silicone on there, guys, make sure you put plenty on there. Some people don't put enough on there. You want a pretty good sized bead. I think there's some videos out there on how to do that, on how to what size bead you should have on that, so this seals up real good, so you don't have any oil leaks or coolant leaks there. So so that one will wrap this video up, I guess, guys, on that. I thought I'd throw that out there. I didn't see any videos out there on how to do the sequence of torquing down your intake here, your lower intake. And now on the upper intake, they're not really specifically saying, I didn't see anywhere where it specifically said on how to do the sequence on that, but on that one, I guess you would want to start, you know, in your centers and basically do like you did, but I'll have to look up the torque specs for the plastic. It's going to be a lot less than the bottom, of course, because it's all plastic. It sets up on top of here, your plenum that sets up on top of that. So anyways, guys, I guess that one will wrap this video up, and hopefully we get this thing back up on the road and get it running without any issues. If there is, I'll come out with another video on what happened there. So that'll wrap this one up, guys, and we'll catch you on the next one.